when the MCI regulation says that there has to be 15 doctors on the clinical side to teach the students, even in the first year, whereas only in the second year the medical students go there. And all these 15 doctors were sitting there quiet, without any work, because the number of patients are very limited. And many of them left the institution because of de-skilling, not having work. So people have to think when they are putting down rules and see that this is killing institutions or not making institutions to be started. With due apology to former MCI member sitting here, Dr. Rajiv, who is not an MCI member now, that's why. But even I have told this to the people at the very top level of MCI. So like that, the government, for example, can bring in lot of regulation, take out lot of regulations which can actually produce more of graduates. And we require that very badly. Why don't we have a course where doctors who are not to the level of an MBBS doctor, but who can treat the common cold and cough, be authorized to do that, like the nurse practitioners abroad, go to the villages and prescribe and write medicines and treat the millions of people who are not having that facility. Why can't rules be rewritten so that we know that we can't fill this gap by having doctors according to the present situation? There has to be a change, and that change will bring in large number of professionals who can actually produce quality care, ethical care. So starting innovative courses, distance education in healthcare with contact courses like what Symbiosis and all are doing. And there could be a lot of PPP which could be done. For example, all the district headquarters hospitals in India, I think, is eligible to be a medical college hospital by the patient flow. What you want is just the administrative or the academic blocks being built there. There could be a nursing college and a medical college with each district headquarters hospital in India. Why don't you look at that? That will be a huge opportunity opening up for everyone, and that will also improve the standards of healthcare in that district. Why don't you look at that? Now, there has to be mandatory training requirements prescribed by the government. And without that, licenses should not be renewed. We were telling about the training requirements. For doctors, nurses, whoever is a qualified professional, there has to be a prescription for his license to be renewed by having fixed numbers of exposure to training, which is being authenticated for the license to be reissued or to be revived. Why don't we do that? Now, what the private sector could do? We should actually become not just consumers from this pipeline of healthcare professionals, but should become suppliers to that pipeline. Very important for people like me. We have started thinking about that 5 years back. We have started courses, and we have now 1,200 students in different courses, including medical course, 150 student intake, MBBS course. We have 3 nursing courses happening, BSc, MSc, and we have 24 Depend B courses happening. We have large number of BSc courses happening, MSc courses happening in our institutions. 1,200 students are coming out of our institutions, and we thought that it's our duty as a healthcare provider, taking large number of people from the market to also supply so that this doesn't dry up. This has to be done by all the institutions, especially the major institutions. I'm very happy that Symbiosis is looking at establishing over a period of time a medical college, and as a prelude to that, even training, paramedical already started and many other things. So it's very important. It's a message to all the healthcare providers that they should at least be providing what they are taking from the system so that it doesn't dry up. Now, the private sector, again, as I told you, can involve in the PPP initiatives in the medical colleges being built by the government and all. And they should also have stringent training requirements for promotion and increment and things like that. Whoever comes into the system should be going through that, whether it be a doctor, whether it be a nurse, a manager, anybody should have stringent training requirements for them to get promotion, and that will make sure that these people are retrained. And finally, what every one of us can do. See, all of us can make learning a continuous process. It is our duty. We shouldn't think of the institution or the government or somebody else doing that. We have to take up that responsibility of making learning a continuous process. Once you have a degree or once you are employed, you shouldn't stop learning. Actually, it should be the beginning of your learning process. The stagnant pools will stink. You shouldn't allow that to happen. You should see that you are updated every day in your subject and even subjects beyond you, so that's a very, very important aspect. Because of not only that we are gained, but the people we are taking care, they are gained by that. I wrote in the first slide that we can smile because we are in a very safe domain. We are in an area where it's almost guaranteed for us to get a job and carry forward. But we should also understand that we have a very, very sacred responsibility of taking care of precious lives. For that to happen, we have to make sure that we keep ourselves retrained, learning every minute. It's very, very important. And it's our responsibility. Nobody else can do that. And be passionate in what you do in healthcare and love what you do. That's a message which I have to tell you. You have to be really passionate if you have to be successful in life. And you all have to be like a champion in your own area. You should be leaders without titles. Anywhere you are, you should be a leader teaching others around you. That is actually the best thing. If you can be a leader without title, you need not be a head of institution or a chairman or anybody like that. Before I close, I think a very serious, people are not smiling, so I should just crack a joke and stop this. So regarding chairman, I being chairman, I think I can tell this. I don't know whether I have told this story earlier because I have met the students 2 or 3 times. I try to tell this every time. So this is a story about a chairman. Somebody went to buy a donkey. And there were 3 donkeys. And one of the donkeys, he asked, what is the price? So the farmer said, this donkey will cost you 10,000 rupees. So he said that, okay, what is the second donkey? What is the cost of that? So the farmer said, the second donkey didn't look different. So the farmer said, that will cost you 25,000 rupees. So he asked, why does this second donkey cost 25,000 rupees? Because it does some special weight lifting and it has got some special capabilities. That's why it is costing 25,000 rupees. So the third donkey was not looking different at all. In fact, it was shorter and it was uglier. So he asked, what does this donkey cost? Then the farmer said, this cost 1 lakh rupee. So this man said that 1 lakh for this. What is so special about it? So the farmer said, I don't find anything special about it, but the other 2 donkeys call it chairman. So making people call you chairman is the trick of the whole job. So I don't want to now prolong. Thank you very much. And I just want to close it with one final slide. This is by a person whom we all really, really think about when we think about passion, innovation. And he has famously said that the only way to do great work is to love what you do. And I hope that you love what you do. Thank you very much. So I'll take questions if we have some 10 minutes left. 10? Yeah. So any questions, I'll be happy to answer. You can give that. Yeah. Yeah.
Say for relaxation of rule in medical education. But then these days, it's dominant. The money power is dominant, and merit is somewhat take a back seat when a student in MBBS or MBBS. Both crowds are given for orthopedics and how many can afford? And if somebody can afford it, they will try to replicate or manipulate that mode.
No, I didn't clearly get that question. What was that?
Sir, private players in medical education.
And my question to you is, with the background that you have hospitals in UAE as well as in India, and some of your hospitals have been JCI accredited. And in that context, I just want to ask you, like in respect to regulations, the quality of the medical records play a very important role. A lot of stress is given on the medical records.
Medical?
Records.
Yeah.
So in UAE, for example, the doctors are basically imposed by the law of land to maintain those that medical records. So do you find that a challenge here in India? That how do we ensure that the doctors are doing a proper job on the medical record front? And what are the measures or the mechanisms that you have developed to ensure that these things are done?
Right. Thank you. That's a very, very important question. See, one good thing that's happening now in healthcare is that we are also slowly moving into the area of digitalization. Unlike many other areas like banking or IT or retail, healthcare has been very, very slow in moving into IT, especially in areas like EMR, electronic medical records. The admission, discharge, and financial and all, to a great extent, has been done. But when it comes to EMR, this is a very sad story. But now it is catching up. As you mentioned, in UAE and all, it is becoming mandatory that there has to be an e-prescription for all the patients, as well as now they are insisting on electronic medical records being entered by the doctors. Here, due to the large number of practitioners as well as the large patient load, it will take time. But institutions like ours are actually practicing it. For example, our hospital at Calicut, which is a 600-bed hospital, the MIMS hospital, which is the first hospital in India to be accredited by NABH, by the way. That hospital, for the last 7 years, has been fully paperless. We do everything on digitally. Our new hospital being started at Kochi, the CEO Harish Pillai is here, Dr. Harish Pillai is here. We have a fully electronic medical record. So we are trying, institutions like ours can do that, but it will take time, it's a long journey. But ultimately we have to reach there. And there may be at some point government will have to put in regulations that it has to be electronically recorded. And insurance is one major game changer who will insist on this happening. In UAE and all this started happening because the insurance people, they started demanding that it has to be through the system. And as initially it was 10%, 20%, 30%, 50%, 60%, now 100% insurance coverage of UAE, or at least Dubai and Abu Dhabi. It has become almost mandatory to have it electronically. So I think insurance will play role in changing in this changeover, which will be happening in coming years. Yeah, I'm not able to hear. Yeah.
In maintaining all these records, then the number of patients each doctor will be able to really look after and enter the records will become less and with such a great population of India, it will be very difficult to manage things. I'm sure the number of patients in a day the doctor will see will increase. Otherwise now, there's so much rush in the hospital about each patient, each doctor seeing about 50 patients in a day. It will be difficult.
Okay, doctor. This is a very good question. I also had the same doubt when we started this whole activity. It's time. Last question. So I also had the same doubt, but very, very surprisingly, what has happened is that wherever we start this, within a period of 3 to 6 months, the speed at which the doctor is able to enter the record, as well as the satisfaction of the doctor and the patient goes up. And you will be surprised that many of our institutions, doctors can't work without electronic medical records now. They do it much faster because there are a lot of things like drop-down lists, lot of aids for the doctors, including in aiding their diagnosis and also helping them in prescription. It gives you choices, interaction with medicines, a lot of things which will drop down. If you write a medicine which can't be added with another medicine, immediately you will get an alert on the computer. So a lot of things which help, and doctors start loving it and they can't work without that. So it's only a matter of time. Even doctors seeing 50, 60 patients are able to do that without difficulty. So this will be the last question because of the lack of time. I'm sorry about that. Last question according to the organizers. I am happy to answer, but there is want of time and we'll have to stop it here. Yeah, last question please. Yeah.
Good evening, sir. I'm Teresa Thomas. I'm quality controller for Rizvi Hospital, Ernakulam. So, as I have spoken about the HR, we are in the pre-assessment process for NABH accreditation. And sir, the main problem that we are facing now is we train nurses, and by the time duration of 6 months, there is a huge turnover when an overseas opening comes. And n number of nurses, they just walk out and we don't have any option of stopping that. And again, I have to set up next nurses, train them again. The process goes on, and it's a continuous process for me, training the nurses. How do you manage it? That is the first question. And second question, exactly what ma'am was saying. Even I face the same problem. For my doctors in the OPD, we see nearly about 165 outpatients per day. With the hospital as such, we are huge. My hospital is 750-bed hospital, and we have a huge patient flow. So is it required that the clinicians must be provided with the physician assistant for the EMR, or gradually, as you said, at a particular time period, or do you recommend to provide them with the physician assistant? Now, because we are talking on the topic of HR, I thought of including both the HR related topics.
Thank you. So that is 2-in-1 question. Instead of 1 question, we get 2 questions now. So the first part of the question, the HR, that's a major challenge for any institution, especially with overseas recruitment and all. So what I think is that you must be taking double the requirement. You start training double the number of people, and you can even see, make it a point that they stay back at least for some time if you are giving that training, or charge people who are being trained. So if in a no, whatever who is being trained in particular areas, I'm just giving a suggestion. I know that it's an issue. There is 30 to 40% attrition rates of nurses, and that's a reality. Okay, people are going out, as I was giving in my speech. We have to see that more and more people are trained. We have to find methods, even having some arrangement by which We have additional training facilities, which people will come, and if you are not taking them as employees, just giving them training as a part of Lissi Hospital CSR program, there will be a lot of nurses who will come and do that. So that is like a service to them for getting better job, no?
Yeah, we are doing the credentialing and privileging part is done.
Yeah.
Privileging of the nurses we are doing.
Yeah.
The part is we are charitable hospital.
Yeah.
This is a charitable
I know.
hospital. Monetary aspect, we can't leave the salary what they have been paid.
I know.
That is the major
Okay.
problem what we are
Yeah.
facing.
Okay. Please be seated. So what I am saying is, it's a challenge, and we have to train more and more people. That's something which I didn't cover in my speech. One area which we have to look at is that we have large number of qualified people, but we don't have people who are employable. Many of them are actually people who are qualified, but when nurses come to us, and we feel so sorry that BSc Nursing done from some college and the standard, and we have to teach them for 1 year to be real nurses. So that's something, a challenge which all of us again has to look at, the training programs. So institutions have to improve their standards. Now coming to your second this thing, these doctors, I'm sure that they will pick it up, and it's also a function of the IT. IT can help a lot by drop-down list and all, speed up the whole thing. More than writing, it is possible. Now, finally, I just want to tell you that if you want to support somebody who is having a heavy rush and unable to live to this speed of activity with large number of patients, you can always support them with clerical assistance or like physician assistant. Thank you. So for the want of time, thank you very much once again. I really appreciate the patient hearing, and thank you very much. And thanks a lot to Dr. Rajiv, Dr. Vidya, and all the others. And they are doing a great job. Every year we come here twice and we experience this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for the kind insight into challenges in workforce management in hospitals. With that note, I would like to call upon Dr. Rajiv Redekar, sir, Dean, Faculty of Health and Biomedical Sciences, to felicitate the nursery, Dr. Azad Mubin.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you.